talking about the interplay or the intertwining of major street figures, particularly drugs, but all the illegal income sources and gambling. That was a lot of guys' downfall.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that goes back, I guess, forever to the 20s, 30s, or before that, the saloon, that pool hall gambling, what's he's gotten calm nerves like a riverboat gambler, right? Edgy people gamble and large sums of money stimulate people. So my own personal thing would be, I think that guys, everyone likes adrenaline, right? And likes excitement. But if that's just your job, if every day transporting or having hundreds of $1,000s in your possession, being in rooms with kilos of drugs, if that becomes normal to you, there's no adrenaline, there's no excitement to that. All the regular things that,
Especially if you've moved up the food chain, so you're good at it. So you're not, I mean, you've not even, or at risk, but it probably feels like you are.
it doesn't, right? It feels very ordinary. And often you're not even touching the bag and the bag getting moved and you just getting the money from the bag after it's went through your network, right? So there's no adrenaline in that. You around people. So anyway, that was always my thing, because going back to Popping Them Day, all them stories of Stokes back when,
And who was Stokes?
Guy came home from the army, best I heard because he was real good with his hands and defending himself. But he ran, I would say back in Pop and Eddie's day in the 70s, Stokes, Mr. Kelly's, Uncle Willie's joint over there on Brush and Erskine.
And these are
all famous. Well, same. When back then, when you said after hours, that meant gambling and broads, right?
And liquor.
And liquor. And, whatever else you might want to do, what they grown people do. But I guess guys at the plane go to the local bar after they get off work. I worked in corporate America in corporate settings. It's a regular thing that when people get off, people from that same industry always find a couple particular bars or restaurants where everybody unwinds. Well, for street niggas, guys getting money or living that life, the after hour joint become your gathering place or your networking place. That's where you come. And so it was, I guess, one of the best stories back in the day, and I believe it occurred at Stokes, was as Eddie was ascending and right before Marzette passed. So it was kind of changing.
71.
Yeah, that changing of the guards of who was the biggest guy in the city. And anyway, Eddie was in there being boisterous, and Marzette wasn't there, but one of Marzette's lieutenants was there. And he's like, man, you talking all that shit. You still ain't big like my man Marzette, this, that, and the third. And Eddie was like, nigga, y'all ain't getting them days over. Ain't nobody getting money in this town like I'm getting money. And they go back and forth for a little verbal squabble. So big man finally said, well, check this out, nigga. 90 minutes. You go get as much money as you can, and you and your people can. And I'm going to go bring my bankroll here, and we're going to put it on the pool table. And whoever got the biggest bankroll, take the bankroll. Let's play. He was talking that big bank, take little bank shit long for Ice Cube. All respect to my man Q.
I would, if people watch a BMF show.
Right. So if you're watching the BMF show, there's a character they call Blaze. Everybody knows who follows this crime thing. It's destroyed. Henry Marzette's name, Nick's street name was Blaze Marzette, going back to when he was a narcotics officer.
50s.
Yeah, the 50s, before he became a kingpin. He was a cop, and I guess he set records for his arrest, and he was arresting guys so quick, the name Blaze got attached to him. So when you're watching BMF and they're talking about the Henrietta, not an accident, Henrietta.
TV about to take over the whole nation.
I like how you guys move like snakes.
His real name, his government name, was Henry Marzette. So you have this character Blaze, in BMF who's a retired policeman who's turned kingpin, who has a daughter named Henrietta. They're not even trying to, it's not even loosely veiled that this is supposed to be based upon Marzette, even though, of course, the timeline is all off.
And all that.
In Marzette, and then that somehow this fictional Henrietta Marzette is a lesbian and kills my man KK's brother's woman after some kind of crazy affair. I mean, they just took it, and of course, she's blowing up people with her flamethrower. And I think Marzette died like in 1973.
True.
But anyway, Marzette Lieutenant went and brought about $60,000 back to Stokes after hours joint.
Wasted that out.
That is $60,1971 though.
Yeah, but we know what Eddie was doing.
He brought $250 back, and when he put it on to say, "God damn, nigga, I was gonna bring $1 million, but I knew you wasn't no $1 million nigga. So I brought $250 because I figured that about what you could handle. But you ain't even a $250 nigga. $60,000, man, keep it. I don't even want it. Thought we was doing some gambling." True story. True story. Yeah. So all the guys from back in them days would be at, this church. So shout out to Uncle Butch and the Black Dispatch. All his crew, Huckabuck, Freaky Steve, Big Butch, Y2C, all those guys from back in the day that frequented the after hours scene. And that's where you went, and got a minute. So it's some ego in there too, because there's always some street ego shit that how else can I really prove that I'm getting more money than you?
Who got the best jewelry and whatever?
All of that. So that KK was just telling a story about that after Fat Steve came after I would join Floss and his diamond pendant and chain and a 30-carat ring. The next day, Lawrence got to go buy a 50-carat ring. So, turn this off because people are annoying. So that's just how that goes. So, and it's also the only. Go ahead.
Did you remember that St. Cecilia incident?
I mean, I remember when it happened.
You didn't know them then.
I knew Steve then.
So you remember him getting shot?
Yeah.
Did you check on it? Like, what was your, like, you just know him or did you talk to him?
No, I didn't know him like that, Dan. I knew, God rest his soul, knew his brother a little bit more because I would see his brother over there on Leslie, right, with Pep and Tracy. No, but obviously it was a talk of the neighborhood. When you went,
Oh, they made a national news.
When you went, and obviously, I mean, shout out to Five. Steve been famous in this town. Steve been famous in this town for a long time. Steve been getting money since the late 70s.
This is YBI.
It says YBI. And at that time when Lawrence and KK name was ringing, KK and Lawrence's father, Big Nose, go back to Nose and my father go back to like grade school together.
So the 50s.
Yeah. Everybody.
Who's Nose?
That's Lawrence and KK daddy.
For
the audience. Big Nose. Anybody, if anybody from this town who from the projects know anything about the Brewster Projects, Jeffrey Projects, anything what the old fellas like Pop called downtown, any of that projects, Paradise Valley, Black Bottom, Brewster Project, Jeffrey Projects, everybody know who Big Nose was, right? So I would just hear because it's the same circle, so they're all the same friends, and Big Nose friends with Strata Butch, another guy who made a ton of money down there. Pops and Strata did a lot of business together. He knew everybody because, again, he come up with all those guys that became real big guys. Shout out to Pat Rob, KK and them uncle. Another hell of a guy in this town. His other uncle, TD, Top Dog, another hell of a guy. So I had not crossed paths with Lawrence and KK, but they come from the same situation. And then KK and the Knowles family, KK and Lawrence and them lived across the hall. Shout out to the Nelson family, to Greg and Rose Nelson. Greg and Rose Nelson was one of the first people, for real. Jap might have been hustling with Eddie before them, but Greg and Rose Nelson maybe as far as putting like Eddie's bag down in the projects and really solidifying. So those was KK's neighbors, was the main people that Pop and them was fucking with back in the day, and the Nelsons and Pop go back again. These relationships go back for anybody had any money and anybody was selling dope. So when KK and Lawrence blew up, it was all around town, within in that world, everybody like, knows them boys getting a lot of money. And
these were the same years that your dad had to connect that to the Caribbean code. Mention that. That was the same time, right?
Yeah, so that whole 85 through 90, when the streets just went cuckoo crazy with kilos, and kilo prices went from 60 down to fucking 13. So just was having a conversation. Some people say even 11. I never heard them that cheap, but it's very believable. Because I know we was letting them go for 13.5
in Detroit.
So the prices, they got crazy. Demetrius Holloway running around, he got a big bag. Lawrence had a big bag.
You think Lawrence was about as in the same league as Demetrius, or hard to know exactly, but
No, it was peers. I mean, and they gambled. Speaking of gambling, I mean, back to the gambling. Demetrius Holloway, known for going to Vegas, his thing was that he could roll an 11 on his first roll of the dice. He would bet $50,000 per roll. Go from crap table to crap table, or always his first bet was 50,000 on 11.
Oh, that was his thing.
That was his thing.
Oh,
It's like a payout, I guess. Payout, it's like 10 to 1, 20, no, like 20 to 1. So, it's $1 million. You won $1 million, yeah. Demetrius been known. In fact, that's what he used to put on his tax returns, was that he was a gambler.
Yeah, won $1 million a year.
He's won, yeah. He's been up a couple million in the casino a few times, and I'm not defending people from my world or from that circle. When you go to Caesar's Palace, or if you go to Macau, or the big casinos over in China, it be heavy hitters of all incomes and profession. It's not just urban drug lords or urban big fellas who find it appealing to bet large sums of money on rolls of dice.
Because at the same time KK and them things was open, that was when the scandal with Isaiah and the mob.
And the Chaldeans.
Yep.
And I don't mean to make stereotypes, but the Chaldean culture, a lot of cultures like to gamble. I got some dear Korean friends.
Oh, they likes to gamble
like Asians. I mean, for real, for real. I've been shout out to Sam and Nino. We used to mess around in the clothing business, and then in that knockoff game. So with them, remember we were in Vegas for the Magic show, and they bring $350,000 just to gamble with for 2 days. He's telling me stories of when they're in Atlantic City at the Bugatti. He has to slow his brother down. His brother's lost $500,000 in 4 days. When you're getting stupid money, man, people behave stupid regardless of what profession you're in. And I think people, when you know how to make money doing one thing, when you hit that long shot, or that long shot comes in, it is a kind of a special rush. Like if you're Demetrius, if you can afford to lose that 50,000, that thrill of, if you see that 11 pop up and you just stung them for $1 million in 30 seconds. I got a dear family member, whom to birth me. She's a high roller. So when she goes to the casino, we be in the high roller section and stuff. The people there are usually just very successful business people.
But to this day, I ain't gonna say no names, but we're at the casino, we see a lot of the street figures. Because it's one of the few safe places to really be in Detroit.
Well, and on that note, what brought the demise to the high-end street after hour joint was the gaming house. It's safer. Even though back in the day, to going back to old man Stokes. So you have to imagine the reputation of how he ran his joint and the caliber of the people that you legitimately got 20 guys, 30 guys, maybe 30 guys, 35, 40 broads, people working the different crap tables, pool tables. Let's say on average, each guy has got between 50 to $250,000 on them, because these kind of guys don't go to the after
You
hour.
can come in there and lay it down and get millions of dollars. If
you got that kind of heart. There's a famous story of, though, the famous scene in Uptown Saturday Night, the famous Bill Cosby Sidney Poitier movie, where the after hour joint, Madame Sylvia's, I believe, right, is robbed. Everybody knows that Calvin Lockhart plays the gangster who did it. And it's what the storyline of Uptown Saturday Night. Uptown is talking about Harlem. So in the movie Uptown Saturday Night, this fictional after hours joint does that. All the players are in town for a fight, but it's based on a real situation. Down in Atlanta in 71 for the Jerry, or 1970, because it was the year before the Frazier fight, before it was Ali Corey, Jerry Corey and Ali fought in 1970 in Atlanta. It was a preview of what Madison Square Garden was going to look like for Ali Frazier. A lot of heavy hitters all came to Atlanta, and they were all at a particular after hours joint in Atlanta. And a crew did come in there and lay them down and got a few $1 million in cash, a few $1 million in jewelry.
And was Frank Matthews there?
Frank Matthews was not at that after hours, but he was in town for the fight. That's a fact.
Now,
and some of his crew, because, Pops, Frank's number 2 man, Mickey Beckworth, and Pops was locked up in Atlanta, and they had got real cool. And Mickey was in town, I believe, also in Atlanta when this all went down. And behind that,
so that's based on that incident.
That's based on that. That Sidney Port, the Uptown Saturday Night, the robbing of Madame Sylvia, is based upon the after hour joint that got hit in Atlanta. Now, to all you stick up men, there was about 10 homicides that followed in the next 2 weeks after that.
Oh, so that's known.
That's known.
Wow.
That's known.
Hmm.
But there were 10 deaths immediately within 2 weeks after that, and probably another 6 gentlemen who've never.
Oh, so it was like 15, 16 people died.
Who knew or had enough sense.
Who was the crew? Were they out in Atlanta? Were they from elsewhere? You don't know. New York people?
I believe the stories that it was told was a combination. It was a professional crew, though. I mean, it had to be a professional crew, because you got to know that the security at these kind of places is top notch.
Wow.
But they caught them slipping, and they laid down the whole after hour joint. And this was a gathering of players from all over America.
It was almost like a black Appalachia.
Exactly. And that's how these after hour joints, Stokes, Mr. Kelly's.
And would they get raided?
No, I'm sure they had to be paying the cops. And then in the 80s, you had, in 90s, you had Demetrius with the 19th hole. Stokes was still going. KK and Lawrence opened up their own joint over there on Schaefer, and it's all kind of stories in there. Some of the fellas been around here. I'll let them, Skip and Peppers, guys lose $100,000, $200,000. That was nothing. And the one time, don't quote me on this, because I'm not sure if it was at Lawrence and KK's joint or if it was but one of the fellas in this orbit stung him for about $450,000, which is all they had. All the fellas he was gambling with had on them. They had to give them out IOUs. And to show you, though, the caliber of guys that you dealing with, and that there are levels to this shit. I know everybody got goofy with this YouTube shit, don't know how real guys really behave. But if I run out of money and I want to keep gambling, it's very possible that I can just give you an IOU, or the house will for an IOU in my behalf, and I might owe you $50,000, and I need to straighten that out the next day when I get to my money. It's Eddie and Pops always telling this story about. Shout out to the Bobo, our people down in Memphis. I don't know, Eddie blew through, I don't know, $500,000 or something in Vegas on one of his excursions. And normally when he would do shit like that, he had to tell somebody to fly out to Vegas or wherever he was at, where he didn't blow off his money, and bring him another $500,000 or whatever he needed. But he ran into the Bovos and them, and they got on their feet, and it was just no thing. Like, well, what you need? I guess they gave him like $150,000. They were like, well, we know you're good for it. It was $150,000 in the 70s. You running out. I know it's hard for some of you guys nowadays to understand. You run into your man and be like, oh man, I had a rough weekend out here in Vegas, man. My money all fucked up, money back home. You got some money on you? Yeah, I'm in good shape. What you need? Give me about 150, give me back home. All right, well, meet me at the room. They're going 150,000. They use a real one. When we get back, we meet up, give you back your money. That's that. No interest, no loan, just mutual big fella respect. And I know the world didn't change. This shit I'm talking, I know sound like some fairy tale shit, but there was actually a time that's how guys in the life.
Now, let's wait up with this question. So, we're working on a doc called Beyond Street Dreams. Your father and you, I mean, you like to party a little much, but your father certainly, and you weren't into gambling. So, there was no real downfall of your father. He really didn't have, like Demetrius and those guys didn't get high or drink, but then they had the gambling. But your father, maybe that might be part of why your family had a legacy from the street. He didn't want into that.
Well, that for surely, because very few people win more than they lose gambling.
Right? What ain't set up like? First of all, the house is taken
10% off the top, right? The fact that Pops didn't have any vices surely helped his situation and just helped the family's longevity. Because, we were been blessed, and we're going to chronicle this in Beyond Street Dreams, because, I'm fine the same, messing with the big man blessed him and put him on in the 70s. So he saw how the game worked, how life worked, really playing at the highest levels. He go and he do his time, and stack just enough money to bridge the gap till he come home. But he another lick with his Bohemian connection, and the Nigerians. Setback, gets caught with a pistol, yada, 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 has to go sit down for 18 months a year, house to stop, bunch of more money for lawyers, and just life. But so when that last kind of Kingpin's last stand, when that Pakistani plug come, and he get back on his feet with the Pakistanis, with that bag coming straight out of there. Yeah, he knew what to do. He had seen. So you got to know this story is different, because it's just not that many people from this world who come from a situation that have been able to be blessed in the 70s, blessed in the 80s, and then blessed in the 90s again. And you almost got to have that to be able to have something to show.
And he wasn't someone that went to after hours much or all.
Oh, but I guess I made up for his absence. But like my father I don't think he's ever been in a strip club in his life.
He ain't missing it.
Right? I mean, that was, and he definitely wasn't going to nobody's after hour joint. The most, as far as gambling, Pop would maybe occasionally go to the racetrack. He used to, like, when we were kids, he'd go to the racetrack. And then the funny thing about it, once he started getting money, he stopped going to the racetrack. He was going to the racetrack when he was driving the bus and shit. But I mean, every blue moon, maybe Neil Fink, some of the lawyers and shit that they fucked with back then,
he was a bad gambler.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, so that's why his name hit my mind. We'd be up in the box at DRC, and him and Pop would always kick it. That's why he kind of snuck out, because he was one of the lawyers who would always, for people from that world that would. But man, as you know, you can talk to the same guys I talk to, man. You got at some of these after-hour joints, they were mobsters' wives from Grosse Pointe. This Gambling Jones is a bad dude, man. Chaldean broads who never would be seen around a bunch of black guys might be
Oh, they there to gamble?
there because
Really?
and game recognize. Oh, a lot of mobsters.
Were
Wives.
were these black after hours?
Yeah.
But if you were somebody, you could. Now, could just anybody get it?
No, if
You
you
wouldn't even know what it was.
you wouldn't know what it was, and if you ain't
No.
in the union or associated with somebody in the
Criminal union.
criminal union, you're not gonna get in there. First of all, you ain't gonna feel comfortable, and if you don't know, that ain't a. These are obviously the kind of people that you play games with. You know what I'm saying? You start making bets, you need to be able to pay your tab, and then
Well, so there'd be women of different nations coming in there. Wow, that was interesting. Like to be in the 70s and have women up there on the court, white women up there on the court, like I gotta go gamble at one.
right. And where else can I gamble and be safe at 4 a.m.
Wow, that's wild.
in 1975 or 1985?
Or whenever. Yeah.
Where can I? I'm a white woman, Miss Barzoloni. Excuse me, not no disparagement to my Italian friends, but I'm Miss Barzoloni, and I like to gamble.